I remember when I was the first time in Africa and we were walking through the Okowanga Delta, which is a complete wild place in the middle of Africa. And we were there with Brandon, who's a friend of mine, in a trailer. And we stopped in front of this gigantic spider web. And I was like this close. And he was standing there in front of that spider web and explaining how life is connected and how I am part of this spider web and the spider is part of me, how everything is connected in this web of life. And I remember it was so moving on so many levels that one person can explain how everything is connected just by simply watching a spider web, and that the whole wisdom of connection and earth and creation is hidden in the spider web, and that the web of life just explains how everything is connected in an ecosystem and everything is woven into each other, like the tree with the earth, with the bees, with the birds, with the animals, we as humans. And I remember really seeing myself in the web there as part of that connection for the first time in a long time. And I was totally like shocked and awakened by the fact that nobody ever taught me this, that nobody teaches us this fundamental connection of life and how much magic you get, how much you can find your own place by just remembering that you're part of that web of life, and how beautiful it is to just see a spider in the wild and know that even though I live maybe on the other side of the world, that we're both kind of connected, because on Earth everything just only works and we just work together. And so back then I was, always used as a writer and as a filmmaker to be behind the scenes. But that kind of was a turning point when I just realized that I want to be part of the change and part of the change in the world, and share also stories from the earth and give earth and nature a voice, and be like this frontline conservationist, and like Brandon and like so many people out there who have so much wisdom and knowledge about nature, and that my story has to change. And so with time, my role also completely changed from being a storyteller from behind the scenes, now also asking myself, what's the story I want to bring into this world? And for me, it was crystal clear that I want to give Earth a voice, share stories that share the wisdom of nature again, and just find a way to move people in the same way as I've been moved by this incredible connection out there and by the story I was told. And that's what I feel is what I want to bring into this world with my stories and with all I do. And so the reason I share it is because I do believe that in every story of each and every one of us, like in every animal, in every tree, and in each story we also carry is the medicine for bringing change and for being part of the web of life, so that everything works and everything grows in abundance and magic on Earth. And that the crisis of climate and the crisis on Earth we face is interlinked, because that's what I've learned from the web of life, that we separated somehow ourselves from that web of life, and we think we don't have an impact. But the truth is, when you remember that you are part of the spider web, everything just is woven. And so you cannot not bring something in with yourself. And you can always choose what that is. And I think it's especially important in these times to remember that your story is powerful, and what you can bring in is a medicine. What you can share is maybe for someone out there, the change that the person needs. And I just always remember that, imagine this, a spider at the end of the world in the Okowanga Delta, in the middle of the wilderness, just changed my life. And now I try to give back by also changing something, by creating my own stories. And that's the interconnectedness. I love that. That's just very magical and moving. And that's something that I can always come back to when I lose hope in these times. It's the web of life and the remembrance that you never know when you become the little spider for another person in the web of life. And you never know when you need a reminder from nature that you matter too. And so that's something what I do believe when I go in nature, I find that remembrance again. And that was kind of a story when it all started, and when I remember that my roles are going to switch and I don't want to hide anymore. I want to be part of the web of life. And I hope this little story inspired you also to become part of the web of life again, to find hope in sharing your story, to believe in the power of your story and your wild nature, and then we are all connected in the web of life, and that maybe out there is a wild spider waiting for you to remember you in that.